Welcome to a special Rugby Bits podcast as we preview all the international rugby coming up this weekend. And it's been a wild week. I mean, a wild day to say the least. I mean, with the All Blacks dropping their side earlier this morning, and then obviously the Lions news. But I'm not alone. I've got John Thala, who's missing his a bag that he's in South Africa, but his bag is still in Paris. I'm joined by Shark. He's pretty much the only one here who refuses to cut his hair. We all got need for this. We all got neat and tidy Thala for the internationals, the kickstart of the international series.
You know, we some of us want to honor that, real test rugby is back. We've waited a few months since obviously the end of the Six Nations. Shaun is just taking this a bit too lackadaisical. Shaun, I'm a bit disappointed, honestly.
I don't have to get my hair cut before a big game so people think I look neat. I do all the talking on the field and I plan on delivering big time in this podcast.
No, shock you. You add some value, but we normally start off
Sheesh.
podcast.
Now I almost feel like I don't after that comment.
You normally do. We normally start us when we are. I mean, we know we've got international views, a South African part through and through, and we normally start with the box. But a bombshell was dropped today by Andy Farrell as Elliott Daly got confirmed that he's missing the rest of the Lions trip, being sent home with a fractured forearm, which is tragic because he's been playing well. But it's not Daly leaving, it's who's replacing Elliott Daly, and it is Owen Farrell. I mean, going on his fourth tour, Andy Farrell's son. And to say the least, it's caused a shit ton of news. I mean, there's been a stir in the whole of the rugby community because I feel like the rugby community is split in half. There's the crowds for nepotism on one side, and there's the test match animal on Farrell camp on the other side. I mean, Sharky. I mean, it's massive.
If if Owen Farrell's dad wasn't the head coach, I would think that this was a call made specifically to take the heat off a certain Henry Pollock because both players are that polarizing. I think it's a great call. If you have to look at Elliot Daly, I think Elliot Daly is gonna. I really think that he was in a massive shout of being in the match day 23 for the tests. He could even have started somewhere, but he probably would have sat on the bench. Who are you going to replace that's going to sit on the bench? There isn't really anyone. I know a lot of people are talking about Tom Jordan. So Farrell, if he comes in on the bench, he covers a few different positions, but it's a massive, massive call. And I think it's such a great call bringing him up because of the value he adds. And I think what he is going to be doing is helping manage that 10, 12 playmaker sort of setup and obviously all the experience that he has. What a great call. And I love it. Four series. I think there's only three players that have done five Lions tours. So he's done four. He joins Brian O'Driscoll and Alan Wynne-Jones on four tours. Massive shot. I feel for Elliot Daly. I don't think it's such a massive thing that Owen Farrell's been called up. I really don't, because I don't think there's anyone that you're calling up that is going into the match day 23. Not even Tom Jordan.
Salah, I think obviously, the big one has been the fact that he has not played international rugby since 2023. He's coming off concussion, so he hasn't played a match in about 9 weeks. And obviously he's gone to France and a Racing side that hasn't done well. So that's all the sort of the negatives and what people have said as to why they shouldn't call Farrell. But where do you stand on it?
Yeah, look, I think people usually accuse our podcast of everyone pretty much thinking the same, like we all relatively agree with each other. We all see rugby the same way. We all don't sort of do hot takes really that much, maybe Kooks once or twice. But I think this might be one of the few times where I think I'm on the other side of this. And look, obviously I'm probably the third biggest or Owen Farrell fan. I think number one and number two on this podcast. I love Farrell. This is not necessarily about him. This just doesn't really make sense from a squad building point of view. And how I see it is you've picked your three tens when you picked the two Smiths, the two Finns that make three tens in your Lions squad. So I don't know if Farrell can help out with that. And you have four very strong centers. never mind, the likes of Freeman that can go to the midfield, King that can go to 10, etc., etc. So you pick your 10s, you pick your 12s and 13s. I'm not too sure what Farrell helps with, especially at this stage of the tour, because look, at best, I think he probably only can, if he'll only be able to play maybe the Wednesday game against the Brumbies. So from the Brumbies game onwards, there are, let me just double check and count. I think it's 6 games left from that. The Brumbies game is probably the last game for the Test match 23. Like that's going to be like the dry run for the Test. Then you have that Oz NZ game that will probably be the Test bench and the dirt trackers essentially. And then it's the 3 tests, and then it's that after the first test, that Pacific Islands invitational team. So even if you plan it that way, the only way I can see this being helpful is if you want Sione and Aki to be your Test 12 and 13, then you want them to be rested both in the Oz NZ game and in the Pacific Islands game. Then, okay, fair enough. But I mean, Ringrose and Hugh Jones have played some rugby at 12. And look, this Pacific Islands team is not going to be strong, guys. Josh Jacob might make this team. So, that's the sort of the standard that we're talking about. And obviously from what we saw with the Barbarians, these invitational teams aren't built the same like they are now. Like it's quite easy to beat them.
Well, I mean,
So,
Dave Havili has
like,
been
I think Hugh Jones
confirmed.
and oh, ooh, okay. So
Havili,
like
Samu, there's some guys there. I mean, but the fact you've added like
Tutu, wow.
that's your guy. That is your
Okay,
guy.
like
That is
guys,
your
it's not
guy.
going to be that hard. Like you can, I know it's my guy. So look, a backline of, let's say it's Ben White, Marcus Smith, Hugh Jones, and Gary Ringrose at 12 and 13. Duan, let's say it's Freeman, and let's say it's Keenan that's not chosen for the Test 23. That's fine. And then on your bench, you can really play around with, whoever you want from there, Marcus Smith and whatever, or Finn Smith or someone else. So I just don't know what Owen Farrell covers that isn't really fully covered. I think the Lions have a bit of a crisis at 15. I mean, Hugo Keenan isn't able to get himself fit and has just been struggling with injuries for the past year. Blair Kinghorn, I mean, he had a great performance in the top 14 final, great post-match performance, and a picture that caused a lot of controversy itself on Sunday. But I don't think he's also 100% from his injury because he just came back from injury himself. Elliott Daly's out. Marcus Smith, I don't think he's a realistic 15 option. Like, you don't want him to start. Maybe he can do 20 minutes in a test, but you don't want to start. So that's where I'm like, why isn't Farrell bringing a potential 15? That's where a Tom Jordan makes a bit of sense. For me, I think Jamie Osborne makes the most sense to replace Daly. He's the most like for like Elliott Daly. Like, he covers the same positions. He has the big left boot. He's a Leicester Irish player, so he understands the system. So yeah, I just don't understand it from a perspective of where he plays. Like obviously Farrell's class, he's a test match animal, all that sort of stuff. He's more versatile than a Prendergast or a Ford, in terms of tens. So it's not like he's only covering one position like Ford or Prendergast would. I don't have a doubt that if he was thrown into a test, he would perform fine. But I just don't see. I feel like it's now you have an oversupply. It's kind of like the box squad, and I mean they won a World Cup, so it doesn't really matter. But you have this oversupply of nines, and why? Like I don't really get what gaps you'd fill with this. So yeah, and never mind the fact that he shares a surname and a lot of DNA with the head coach. Like it's a mess. But yeah, Kooks, you said it was 50-50 between like supporters and anti people on Twitter, but on Blue Sky it's like 95%. It's like Squid Rugby is basically holding the fort, supporting this Owen Farrell call.
My thing, the reason why he's on tour is literally to take minutes away from players that you want to be ready for Test rugby. So that there's a massive, like, to have him bench in say 2 or 3 games outside of the tests is huge in terms of player welfare. Kinghorn, like player welfare and player prep and all that. Kinghorn, I think the plan is always to have him and Keenan as 15, But Kinghorn's played a shitload of rugby, and I know he's come off an injury, but he's played a lot of rugby. Also, the guy only landed a couple days ago, so like it's probably a case of him getting a run next Wednesday, and then hoping, Wednesday, and then hoping, maybe benching him the other day. But the big thing for Owen Farrell is he's going to be taking minutes off someone like a Sione Tuipulotu, like someone like a Marcus Smith, because I think Marcus Smith was definitely picked as more a 15 option than a 10 option. If you had a look at the 10s that they chose, he was picked more as a 15 utility than as a 10 utility. So I think they're covered with personnel at 15. I think they're covered with personnel at 10. And they're covered with personnel at 12. So Owen Farrell's there to add a lot of value Monday to Friday, and then he's there to take minutes off a guy you need to have a break.
I think also the big thing is, when I saw it, I think, Thala, you mentioned, I think Jamie Osborne probably is probably the most unlucky, and like you get Tom Jordan, I feel probably is a poor man's Elliott Daly at the moment because he doesn't start anywhere in those positions he can cover for Scotland because his second choice at 10, 12, and at 15 if you have Tom Jordan. Whereas I feel like Daly, the hard part about Daly that we've seen him start test matches on the wing at 15 and done a good job. And I think the biggest thing for me was, I think Andy Farrell had a situation of going, do I pick, obviously, like for liking in utility in terms of getting a Tom Jordan or Jamie Osborne, or do I pick the next best available backline player? And I think that's what he's going. If you look there, I'm like, I'm not comfortable. See, I was in the debate with a mate of mine. I was saying, you can't tell me that Tom Jordan and Jamie Osborne are better than Owen Farrell. Like that's what, and he's probably going, I'll take the next man up. And I think the biggest thing as well is the hard thing now, the squad now, unfortunately, will be stretched slightly. But until you mentioned the fact that it's about after the sort of the Brahmies game, you're almost getting the crux of a season of the test side. So what you're asking there is, for me, like Owen Farrell obviously adds incredible amount of value. He's the only person there that has won a Lions series in the entire squad. And you look at the potential starting side in a Finn Russell, say backline at Gibson Park, whether you go Aki or Tuipulotu at 12. Aki's been to one tour, Russell's been to one tour and he's played three-quarters of a test match. Finn Russell, at least the experience that he adds is massive. That's why like this whole thing about nepotism drives me insane, because we're not talking about a guy here with 20 caps. Like I understand if it's like we're talking about like a one of the greatest English players of all time. We're talking about one of the best 10s.
It's not Dan Lancaster.
Yeah.
What's a signing? What's a signing, Dan Lancaster to Glasgow?
No, it's a proper signing. Like, when I talk about like the nepotism, like, it's like we've seen other international sides do something similar. And, Andy Farrell spoke about it, saying the reason that Farrell missed out originally was because of fitness 9 weeks ago. And we've seen our own beloved Springboks not pick 100 Pollard because of fitness to go to the World Cup. Then he got himself fit, and then we lost a hooker, and then we brought him back. So this is not anything new or side picking. Maybe taking a Schalk Brits to a World Cup for a bit of experience, when maybe go, okay, go take someone else. But my thing is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Owen Farrell, for example, if the Lions find themselves going down 1-0, per se. I would also be surprised to see him in a test match in the second or third test. And the biggest thing for me is if you look at that fly-off position, I think this is because with Daly, you're losing experience. We saw a stat on Twitter saying Daly's played 11 of the last 20 games for the Lions. So there's a lot of experience in Daly that you're losing. And Farrell makes up for that and actually adds more experience than what Daly does. So now you're getting experience coming in there. You're getting, because my thing, the amount of value he adds to a Finn Smith, a Finn Russell in the week is massive. Because whether he plays or not, I mean, like, we've seen us Springbok speak about what the guys on the bench do. And I think for squad dynamics, because for me, Owen Farrell walks straight into the leadership group as well. Like, as much as the guys go like, no, he's a part of squad member, that guy, I told you, is gonna lean on him. Finn Russell's going to lean on him. Andy Farrell's going to lean on him. The Lions are going to lean on him. As a guy who's won a Lions to gone to New Zealand and drawn a series. So all that plays a factor. I think the biggest thing now for me is playing wise, Andy Farrell said himself he feels a bit thin at 12. And so he goes, now you've got obviously Aki, you got Tipulu, then Farrell can cover there as well. I think now at 15, some players are going to be stretched. I don't think, for me personally, I think the way Andy Farrell sees it, I think he thinks there's a gap between a Keenan, Daly, the next best 15 in there. Because you're looking at Blair Murray, you're looking at Jamie Osborne, who only shifted to 15 for the first time in a while last year against the Springboks. It's not like it is a 15 just sitting, lurking, and waiting, just going, okay, cool, he comes up. The biggest thing, obviously, they need those guys to be fit. And yes, because that's my thing. I think if Keenan or Kingon goes down, Marcus Smith comes in the 23, possibly as a utility, and he's played test matches there. So that's my thing with Farrell. I don't think he backs any other the 15s left behind and going, I've got 15s here, and potentially, we've seen Jones played 15. So that's my thinking with Andy Farrell. I think that's why he's probably gone, who's the next best player available, and unfortunately had to be his son.
Freeman played 15 on the weekend. They finished the game. And also, Owen Farrell's got Morné Steyn vibes about him. Like, as you say, second or third test, if he goes on the bench for whatever reason, that guy will come on and he will slot his kick.
Yeah. Hello?
I was going to say, look, yeah, obviously the reasoning makes sense. In that context, he's obviously the most experienced option that you can bring there. I mean, Johnny Sexton is in Australia. They could have just gave him a rugby jersey and put him into the team to be fit.
Imagine Finn Russell, Owen Farrell, and Johnny Sexton on tour together at once on the same team.
I mean, with this coast, Finn Smith better watch his steps because Johnny might also get a bit of FOMO. Dan Bigger's also already there. I think he's in the commentary team. So
and Ronan O'Gara.
Yeah, I'd rush there as well. I guess my question is we've heard about it. Obviously, with Owen has been struggling with injuries. He hasn't really had a chance to really build and play with Racing. So it's just also a form question. And that's where it's just okay, what Farrell are we getting now? Because yes, most players of Owen Farrell's class, it's not like they need 1,000 minutes in order to get themselves back into test level. Not at all. But they need something. And that's where it's also a risk there for Andy Farrell. It's how long will it take Owen Farrell to get into fifth gear? So I don't think he's as bad as some people are saying he was in Racing. It seems like from people that watch French Top 14 a lot more often. Shout out to Roast Beefs Rugby, one of the nice English Top 14 pods. They're saying, look, it's overstated how bad Farrell was for Racing. He was obviously struggling with injuries and dead legs and all that sort of stuff. That was more the issue than his form. And it's not like Dan Lancaster played him out of the team per se. It's just that he couldn't really get momentum. So I don't think he's as bad as he's been. But obviously, it's been a while since we've seen top-level Farrell. Top-level Farrell is probably the last part of his Saracens run, where he was looking oh, damn, this guy's going to be a miss for England. So that's where it's going to be the match then on Wednesday. If Farrell's going to be a potential backup for the test team, okay, there's two ways of, let me start again. There's two ways of seeing this selection. If Farrell's just there to add numbers and I think Shaun was saying, to just help with rotation and rest, then whatever. Farrell's going to basically be on the bench for all of the rest of the touring games and probably not really feature in the tests. Maybe just be a listening ear and an extra coach on and off the field for the halfbacks. That's fine. I think then I don't think it helps the Lions I don't think it hinders the Lions that much for that to happen. But if he is a possibility of being a test match player, like Kooks was mentioning, and I do see the reasoning if Farrell was on top form. We need to find out very quickly if Farrell is close to that form or not, which means he pretty much needs to start the Brumbies game so we can see, okay, he's quite close or it's quite far from where he can be. Because I get the reasoning of the experience that Farrell has. I get the reasoning of, the knowledge that Farrell has and the know-how. I think that would make a lot of sense. I wouldn't have been too against it if Farrell was picked initially from the squad. This kind of literally sounds like the Pollard question from 2023. I would have no problem with him being picked in the original squad because he can add that value from the start. Now that you're mid-tour and it's sort of getting tense for the test match spots and all that sort of stuff, you just wonder how much value he can add there. And if the other 10s are seeing him as a potential collaborator of like, hey Faz, how do you see this? Or it's, oh, he's a threat. And I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Love Island, but when they say a bombshell's entered into the villa, like now there's a new boy or a girl that could get the person that you're with. And I'm hoping that's not how the likes of Smith and Finn Russell are seeing Owen Farrell at the moment. So it's a tricky one, and it's not helped because there's certain factors that if we're just talking about Farrell and his resume, it's an easy yes. But there's other factors that just make it, do make it a bit more touchy and dodgy. And yes, just the last thing, Blair Murray, obviously, I don't necessarily think he's of the standard for the British Irish Lions. If I may push for someone that has a bit more test experience than Jamie Osborne and that can help to cover 50, young Freddie Stewart has been looking good the last few months for Leicester Tigers. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying he was the right answer. I think you need a utility back, which is why I think Jamie Osborne makes a lot more sense. But yeah, like this will be interesting. And yeah, I'm definitely watching the next episode of their like YouTube videos about what's happening in the Lions camp, because honestly that maybe there's gonna be a few fake hugs and handshakes between Finn and Owen Farrell, because Finn said that he's sorted things out of Sexton. I don't believe that for a second.
Sexton, it just can't happen because of Sexton, not because of anyone else.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, to wrap this point out before we go to the box, is I'll tell you what the biggest miss for the Lions is at the moment is George Furbank. Because I think if George Furbank was fit, he probably come straight in, then Marcus Smith just covers 10. And then you've got what you're missing in Daly is that you got another 15. King on can be your utility. You can cover. So I think someone like what they're missing now, like you said, Thala, is I agree with you with the fullback crisis. If you have someone like George Furbank available, you've got the 15 jersey covered. Then you can play around with Kinghorn, and you can play around potentially if you say maybe if you want to add an Osborne to cover center. But I just think for me is the Tom Jordan one is a fact that like he doesn't get into Scotland, for example, in any other position he covers. And that's a hard thing for him. He's a great utility, but if you're naming the Scottish, like, okay, he's not coming in for any of those guys. And those are the same guys that he'll be dealing with now when he gets into camp.
But does Farrell get in right now into the English team?
I always take, yes, for me, 100%. 100%, Tyler. 100%.
He would get
right now.
He would push at 10. He would push at 10 for me. I think he'd be in with a shot.
Listen, I mean, I think Finn Smith's been fantastic, but I mean, maybe it's nostalgia speaking. I mean, it's still the Faz guy. I think the other credentials of what Farrell brings is also true. Like I think, like you said, like you mentioned this, that there are reasons, like you said, the form has not been there, like as what it wanted. Obviously, the injuries. I think obviously what the outside stuff that brings in, and I think that does play a massive role. And I think when you're talking about someone like Farrell, the intangibles play as big as a role as maybe as gets keeping out a Tom Jordan guys like that. But what else he can bring off the park, and that's massive, because I still think like a lot of people think like, oh, but it's against Australia, but it's different. Lions tours are different. If maybe they had, let's say, a Conor Murray who was still playing rugby at 9, for example, you can negate that experience. But now you're going Gibson Park's on his first tour, Mitchell's on his first tour, Tubulu's on his first tour, Aki's been to one. So now you're thinking, and now if Farrell goes down, for example, anything can happen. You mean to Finn Russell, you're going, Finn Smith has just started, got the reins in Feb. So there's a lot of inexperience. It doesn't seem like it within there. And a lot of guys go like, yeah, but, just Gibson Park has been around. He's making his debut as a Lion on Saturday. And you're looking at, he's got 46 test caps. As at least, like as a guy coming on the 100 and, and that part to me, and he is going to walk in there and he can't not, like, it's different. Like the squad dynamic is going to be different because it's not like Owen Farrell doesn't walk into a squad and just sits in a corner and goes, like, there's value to be added there. And And I think obviously having him not being captain for England that's taken a role. I think maybe he's himself. He needed the break, and maybe he's become better for it. And he's been to Lions to like 2021. He was voted into the leadership team. So it is going to be very interesting. I just think the value that he can add, and I just like I said, the crowds of nepotism. I'm like, oh, if we're talking about a two-cap player, I don't understand. But I'm like, this is Owen Farrell we're talking about, and I think Owen Farrell is one of the guys. If you go, I just feel like sometimes, and Thala, you've seen it, and Shaun, you've seen it, sometimes you just pick the next best guy available. It's not about position. It's just going who is the next, and it does raise the bar for the 10s. Because like if you find Russell and Finn Smith, because you're sitting there like, listen, if I'm not on it, this Oak has been there, done the job. So, and my thing is, if Jamie Osborne or Tom Jordan get in the squad, I don't think they're getting the team like ahead of the guys who will be in front of them. Like they'll be good, say depth wise, but I don't think they have a chance of making a test side. Whereas like, and they'll be good in terms of cover. I don't think they raise the bar in terms of quality. Whereas that's what Owen Farrell can do is they can raise the bar in terms of quality and what is expected from Finn Russell and Finn Smith. Because now, I don't think. I mean, I know Marcus Smith is there. I think he's now seen as a 15. I think, and if I was okay, you are 15. I think now on Farrell, it goes, if you Finn Russell and Finn Smith, it's literally going, oh, you guys probably have the keys for the first test. But if you're on it, because Owen Farrell's bringing it at practice, he's driving the standards, he's setting it. So it's like if you're also bringing it at practice, it's going to be awkward because that's what Farrell's going to bring, and also having one. So I think it's going to be great I think it's going to be fucking great for Finn Smith as well to spend that much time in camp with Owen Farrell as well, going up to England.
Let's just say, I mean, let's just say that there's an injury on a Thursday or a Friday, and out of every single person that has been mentioned as a possible other instead of Owen Farrell, out of all of them, there's no one that you would rather have on that field with 10 minutes to go in a 5-point game or a 3-point game than Owen Farrell. That is the one thing that you pretty much guaranteed of. If you need someone to nail a kick, if you need someone to come in last minute and fill a gap, that guy will come in and he will bring test match power and game-winning leadership to a game. No other player can come in and say that they can do that. And that's, I think, also quite important because he's going to be bringing that the whole way through. Kooks, as you say, anyone has ever spoken about is how incredible Owen Farrell is in a team environment, how much of a leader he is, the way that he pushes guys to give their absolute best. And if they don't give their best, he will tell them to give their best, and he gives his best. That's what you need. It's a lot of people think it's going to 3-0 walkover, and Owen Farrell's not really going to be needed in that situation. But he offers a backup that you won't get with anyone else, really, at the moment. Like when it comes to leadership, when it comes to experience in lines to let alone just for England, like it's huge. And the value he's going to add is big. And the other thing that we need to understand is we don't know where the Lions are short currently. For me, it looks like they're short prop-wise, like scrummaging. That seems to be a shortfall. It doesn't seem to be in the backs, but you know what I mean? But there's obviously something there that Andy Farrell has been like, we're really missing just that 1% extra, and Owen Farrell can bring it.
Thala?
Yeah, just to finish off, I'm just worried about these poor Lions that you say are going to get mentored because now they have Owen Farrell and Johnny Sexton shouting at them for the next few weeks. You think you're coming to a Lions tour, it's going to be all fun, and now you're just getting berated pretty much from minute one, from when you sleep to when you wake up to when you sleep, basically.
It's intense.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I just think with a bit of the context of like his form and all that sort of stuff, it's a tough call. Look,
yeah,
if the Lions, I mean, if worse comes to worse, you can see this will be the stick to beat Andy Farrell with. Never mind the island stick as well. And I can, yeah, it's gonna bring a lot of content for the likes of us and other people in the next few months if this sort of goes pear-shaped, because you can just see like not only the Ireland Leinster favoritism drama, you have a bit of family drama as well. Like you can see like one of these like assistant coaches going off and rogue and just being like, yeah, I didn't support this. I didn't think it was a good idea. Like they, I don't think it's the same situation as the 2005 Lions tour, but there's some small elements where you could just be like, oh, this could really go pear-shaped, and you hope the test side and all that sort of stuff performs well. Otherwise, there'll be books written about this, and yeah, there'll be a lot of secret slander that Farrell gets for these sort of calls.
To be fair, I mean, if even without Farrell, if they went pear-shaped, I think all the books will still be written about this Lions tour. I mean, I still think this is better than the Geography 6 that Warren Gatland got accused of in 2017, where there was like 6 Welsh players just lingering around just in case there was an injury. So
On holiday.
On holiday, just where you holiday, just so we love spending time in Wellington. Like it's a favorite holiday destination. Who cares about going to France in the summer when you can go to Wellington in the winter? Come on.
I
Who doesn't
would
love Westpac
100% be, yeah, I would 100% be doing that if I was like Tom Jordan or
Yeah. Well,
any of these players that are like on the fringe. I'd just be literally in, and it's much better trying to do that excuse from Australia or South Africa than from New Zealand. Like I just on the Gold Coast the whole time, just be like, I'm here. Just if you need anything, I'm here.
100%. But we'll get back to the Lions later. But now we've got our beloved Springboks taking on Italy, their first official test of the year in Loftus. And listen, shock you lads. I mean, they've named a massive side of them, especially. You've got Ox obviously at prop at one, Malcolm Marx, Volko Low, Yebonetsebeth, Loti Yocha. They reunite again. Marco van Staden, Vincent Tshituka on official debut. Jasper Wiese at 8. Morné van der Berg at 900. Pollard comes back on the side. Kurtley Arons at Damian Willemse. Jesse Creel as captain. Cheslin Colby, and then Damian Willemse, first test since the 2023 World Cup final. And then you've gone 6-2 on the bench with Bongi Bonambi, Hendrik Wessels, Vincent Koch, Archie Snyman, Franco Morstad, Kwaka Smith, Faf de Klerk, and Will Leroux. Shocky, when the star was named, what was your initial thoughts?
I love it. Often teams say they are respecting the opposition, but they don't do that on the team sheet. It's definitely been done now. It's pretty big. My 2 controversial takes. One, that bench is hectic. Absolutely love it. It looks really exciting. There's quite a nice little vibe about that bench, especially with Achia there. I think like it's going to change up, looking for quite a lot of mobility there. The other thing, and then the controversial side of it, is I really think that Volko Louw's, this is his time to perform, specifically this year. Like he's really been cooking and he's been on the fringes and he's never really pushed for that Springbok starting number 3 jumper. And he's got to do it now. Like this year is the year. And if he doesn't do it this year, I think they might kind of move off him. So those are the only 2 sort of controversial things. And the other thing, I'm just so happy for Vincent Tshituka. I love it. I said after watching him in the Barbarians game, like it just really looked like business as usual for him. He took to international rugby like a duck to water, and now we're going to see him as a test animal. And I think he's going to cause problems for some people in the test arena for both South Africans and opposition, because he's going to be able to be in a match day squad, almost anyone that we can name, because I think he's going to be that good.
Thala, you look at that side. I mean, obviously, you got the likes of Vincent Tshituka, who's probably earned the right to get that cap after his great game last week. Out of all the newbies, I mean, like you asked this question with him, Morné van Staden, Volker Loos, I mean, answer is a newbie, but who do you think has got the biggest amount to gain this weekend? When you first have to unmute yourself.
Well, that is a
jet lag.
Jet lag, yeah. It's jet lag.
Yeah. It's been a while, guys. Vocalo, I think Shaun covered it with regards to making an impression, so I can shift gears a little bit. I think there is maybe a bit of an opportunity here for Morné van der Berg. I mean, he's been selected again at 9. It kind of looks like what they did with Sasha Feynman Gomezulu is that what they're doing with Morné, just being like, look, we'll start you and we'll give you pretty much as many opportunities as we can for the next, well, pretty much this season. And if things go pear-shaped, we have an experienced 9 to come off the bench. So probably until Grant Williams comes back, and I'm not sure if Williams is coming back in this July series, or maybe he'll just be saved maybe for the Rugby Championship. This is now maybe a run of games. Maybe it gets to 3 or 4 games where Mooi van der Berg can start from 9, can combine with not just Sasha and not just with like a second team Springbok pack, but with the first team pack with Andre Pollard. This is all the elements that Van der Berg needs in order to make a great performance. Like, you're probably going to get front football. Italy is a good opposition, but not the strongest opposition, and you have one of the most experienced number 10s outside of you. So you have everything that you need in order to make an impression. So I think this is sort of the gift opportunity given to Van der Berg to make an impression, because he hasn't really, played to his best in the Springboks yet, last year and even last week. I think there is some issues with, I think his box kicking can be a bit inaccurate. I think his passing can be a little bit, not fully accurate as well. I think he's really good around the park in terms of just testing the defense. I think he's a strong tackler. So this is the chance for Van der Berg to show, because yeah, maybe that is one spot now, the 9s that do have a bit of a debate. I think other parts of the team are mostly secured, but you can talk about tight head, you can talk about 9s right now. There is a bit of an opportunity here. And yeah, I think even for Damian Willemse, this is definitely not a test. You can't come back with this with just putting your small pinky into the water. I think he has to try and get straight into business with his performance here, because Apelele Fassi has lifted the standard for the 15 jersey. Willemse has to make sure that he meets that, because it's going to be probably a battle for now the next few years. And Fassi has laid down the gauntlet now, so it's Willemse's chance to reply now.
I love how you mentioned Damian Willemse. I think that for me that's the big one. Obviously, we know the class of Gaza, and I mean, the worst thing you can do these days being a Springbok is being injured for a year, because someone else comes in and just blows up the park, and that's what Fassi did. And Fassi's asked serious questions where it now kind of feels like, almost like if Willemse says, listen, like if you want your jersey, this is. You gotta stake a claim here, because it does feel like Rassie might go with Fassi in PE next weekend as well. So you do feel like Fassi will get another run again. It's almost it now feels like it's, guys, you decide who plays against the All Blacks. I mean, the Australian, the All Blacks in the championship. So which is exciting. I think for David it's gonna be great, because he raises the bar for him as well. Because shame is, if you Willem say, will be so frustrated, because he's been cooking either side of his injuries. Whenever he's gone back for the Stormers, he's been playing very, very good rugby. I wonder. I was wondering, like, I wonder if we ever see Willemse maybe getting a crack at 12, maybe in this game. Glennie comes on, you go Willie at 15, and you maybe shift Willemse to 12. I mean, we know he's done it for the Stormers. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe so Rassie does on the weekend. But even Andre as well. So if you Andre Pollard as well, which is the exciting thing now with the box, so it's going. Sandre, we got Sasha here. Morné obviously now can kick a rhino ball, which changes things. So I think there's certain positions now where questions are being asked, where whoever comes in there, there's big decisions to make. And I look at that. You look at Faf de Klerk, for me, this was a big one last year. Obviously, yeah, that injury, he was in the mix for the last, but Kubas Hanak always does a good job whenever he's asked to do whenever he's asked to play. Grant Williams has to come back. So now Faf is going, listen, Faf, can you get back into where you were the incumbent now? And so there's fantastic questions to ask the Boks have right now, and it just shows where the squad is, because I mean, the Boks are sitting here right now with Andre Pollard playing. You've got Sasha and Morné Bok not in the playing squad. Fassi is wearing a suit also on the weekend. I mean, you look at the pack. I mean, the pack is. I can't believe it's been since 2019. We've seen Eben, Luet, Franco, and Agnes Neyman together. I mean, it sounds crazy to me. That's how long it's been that all four have been in the mix. I mean, this is this is the definition of what the foundation of the 6-2 split. Because I mean, it's just perfect. You know, I mean, having Franco and Archie there, Franco obviously covers so many positions, and I just think it's just perfect. And Volkolo, obviously, massive chance for him. But I love the side that the Springboks have picked, and I love the fact that I mean, it is yes, it's got quite a bit of experience. But Shaki, do you think we've got sort of quite stacked last week and this week? Maybe next week, if you win this test, you might maybe rotate a little bit more. You know, like maybe Henrik Vessel's getting a start, or do you think we'll save the big rotations for Georgia?
Um, I actually do think that we will change a little bit next week. Probably more, I was going to say more in the backs, but I think we'll definitely see change in the midfield next week. I think if Willemse gets through the weekend, there's a good chance we'll see him at 12 next week. Obviously, we still got Andre Esthuizen, but it's interesting about how Willemse and Sasha, how we dovetail with them moving forward. I think that is huge. Sasha being a 10 and a 12 and a sort of a 15-ish, and Willemse now probably more a 15 with a bit of 12 and a kind of a 10-ish. You know what I mean? So that's quite interesting. The big one for me, I'm looking forward to a massive game from Jasper Visser. We haven't seen a lot of him. A lot of people have kind of forgotten about him. It's very interesting in that there are still a lot of people that just do not rate him. Like since the Lions tour, when he came in and he started demolishing people, like people still don't rate him. They don't see his value. They're always sort of looking out for the next cab. So I'm looking forward to a big one from Visser. But yes, I think there will be significant changes next week. I don't think it's going to be like eight changes, eight guys on debut in terms of change, but I think it'll be a personnel change and quite a few of them. And then Georgia will probably revert back to more changes, but some good experience. Um, yeah, the backs, the 12, like 11, 12, 13, 14, I think are probably going to be changed a little bit. The guys need to kind of get some ice and rest their legs, you know?
Yeah, because then you still got the likes of like the Moody's and Ethan Hookers. I think obviously, if I mean, like again, I wouldn't be surprised to see how, because I mean, I think you look at, I mean, 10 to 15 or even 11 to 15, those are nailed down starters from Kirtley to, well, Kirtley to Ches. I mean, those four, and then 15 obviously it depends how Damon goes. I mean, which is a good thing. Like I just think we're in such a healthy place at the moment. I think the exciting thing for me, Sharky, is that we're in a situation that Boston go horses for courses and pick a squad now aside, depending on the opposition and depending on where you play. And it's and you can almost pair guys. So if you play Andre, maybe you want Willemse and Willie in the bench. If you play Sasha, you can have a Fassi at 15, depending on who you play. Which for me is that's the kind of depth that you want to have. And the best sides in the world can do the way. It's not just going. Because again, like Rusty speaks about, obviously it's a squad effort, not just a 1 to 23. So now you can sit there and go like it's in the World Cup. You play in this game, you play in this game, and you can go listen against the All Blacks. Maybe I can't, and if I go to 6-2 against the All Blacks, if I'm starting Sash, I need to make sure I have Andre there in the bench. But if you're playing against Australia, maybe I can just go Sasha on his own and maybe not 100. I think that's where we can play around these combinations, especially up front. The Jasper Visser thing, I love what you said. It's so funny with Jasper Visser because he's obviously had a few injuries last year. I still don't think anyone has. I mean, it's poor shame. Cameron Hanekom can't stay fit in tough with Primos, but no one has sort of snatched their jersey away from him. So every time he has to come back, and it's like, oh well, then he's like, he has a good game, and like, oh, that's why he's the incumbent. Like, he's not coming back in this game going, oh, geez, like Jasper's in deeper. I just feel like when he leaves, you come back and you go, oh, because I think his true value we've seen as fans has been when he's not playing. So I think now it is great to have him back. But yeah, Shaggy?
Yeah, it's big. I think like everyone wants the flashy, exciting eight, but we have to get the job done at eight. We have to get the job done first and foremost, and that's I think where a lot of people tend to overlook Jasper Visser and rather prefer to pick someone else. I've completely lost my thoughts on what I did want to say. So yeah. Go ahead. If you feel like reminding
Let
me,
let me
I literally, hey?
I was like, let me bail you out there, Shaun, while you are
I love
searching
it.
and trying to
Don't
find
get
my
his
point
point, and he's like,
points.
oh no, I've lost it.
Oh man, I actually thought I was gonna add value for a second. I was gonna like, Cooks, I'm sorry I let you down, bro, but maybe I'll remember later.
You said you always add value, Shoki. Don't you worry.
I was just going to say that
Okay.
looking, I mean, we still haven't, as we're recording, we still haven't seen what the Italian team is, but what it potentially could be, speaking of Visa, is maybe the one place you could say Italy might either equal or maybe have an advantage over the Boxers loose forward. I mean, you don't have Siya Kolisi there, you have Marco van Staden. You don't have Peter Steph Tutor, you have Vincent Tshituka. And they're going to be going against three of Negri, Zuliani, Vincent, or Lorenzo Canone. And those are obviously four really good players. Like we've seen what they've done club-wise and internationally for the last few years. They're really, really good players. And yes, they'll need obviously a platform from their tight five. They'll need that their backline can put them in the right places. But those are really good battles for those bulk loose forwards, especially those more second choice or lower down the picking orders like Tshituka to measure themselves against players like Seb Negri. Like Tshituka will know if he's a test match level player if he can outplay Seb Negri on Saturday. Marco van Staden, who's, I mean, obviously he's played a ton of test matches now. He's probably in his 30s and caps. And yeah, I mean, I would probably even say I don't think he's necessarily impressed in all of his caps. I think it's been few and far between. He's had like fantastic games, but this is a good chance now where he goes against Zuliani, who's been really in high form for Benetton and for Italy the last few months. So, and for Visa, I mean, Ross Vincent or Lorenzo Canone are two eighth men that are probably around, like, well, also competing with them in that eighth man pecking order around the world. So, yeah, I think on the Italy side, obviously they don't have certain players that have traveled to the tour that being, I guess, rested. They lost Rieko last week. He got injured in the Namibia game. But yeah, I think the places in which they are, there is still some strength. Locks, you can obviously probably see Canone and Favretto playing there, and they're really good. We've talked about the loose forwards. Fischetti is going to be a nice test for Vocalo up front if he starts at loose head. And then the midfield, Marin and Menoncello is going to be great against D'Alend and Creel. We really wanted it to be Brex and Menoncello against D'Alend and Creel, but this will have to do.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry, but I remember what I was going to say now. Cooks, you're talking about depth and everything, and there was a little bit of a social Twitter tete-a-tete. We were with Harry and a couple other guys. There was this one guy in particular who was just talking about he's worried about the Springbok depth. I honestly, I think we have more depth and we're in a better position than we were when we won the World Cup. You referred to the World Cup where we were like horses for courses. We are in that space now where we can probably field three sides that would be competitive against almost all nations. And it's huge. And we're in, I think the best way for me to describe it, the Lions go on tour. A coach is dealing with a whole bunch of players that he really hasn't got any touch points with. He's only really seen them play. He's never coached them or been involved with them. And you can see in the Lions tour, they're like, cool, let's try this combination, let's try this combination, let's try this combination. So take away the fact that the coach doesn't have a direct line to those players. Rassie Erasmus and the coaching staff of the Springboks are in the same position right now. We have so many options. We have, like, just at 13, Jesse Creel, Lukhanyo Ethan Hooker, and Cannon Moody, just at 13. At 12, we've got Damien Delende, Andre Esthuizen, Damian Willemse, Sasha, Andre. Like, that's where we are. We are in a position where we can like float guys around all over the show. So this year is going to be a lot of fact finding, but it's going to be done with such an amazing spine and sort of experience around that team. It's not going to be a bunch of one cappers playing a random test. There's going to be like a good balance. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say earlier. And we can go back to the Italians now.
I'm glad you're back. But listen, I want to ask you guys to make a prediction because I think I know where it'll go. But I'll ask you each. Sharky, if there's one thing you want out of the game from the Springboks, what would it be?
I uh I would like Vincent Tshituka and Damian Willemse to dominate. I think I think there's a lot of players that would really do well. I think I would just want those two to absolutely dominate. That would cause disruption amongst the fans in a good way. Be like, oh, well, hang on a second. Can Peter Steph Toy make his way back? I know that's a very long shot, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like if Damian Willemse can put pressure at 15 or to be considered in the match day 23, it changes the conversation with like Apelele Fassi. It changes the conversation at 12. It changes the conversation with Willie Leroux, Andre Pollard. Like there's so many different variables. So yeah, Vincent Tuka, Damian Willemse, I want them to cook.
Thala?
Um, yeah, I mean, Shaun, I think, took a point because it's a bit difficult, especially not knowing the Italian team, unless maybe those nine rested players have been flown up. Maybe then we'll have like a really competitive test. Like it's just like, oof, this could get out of hand relatively quickly if,
Imagine the name
if Italy
breaks in the
doesn't pick up.
starting lineup just randomly. You're like, well, hang on a second, I didn't even know he was here.
Yeah. Garbisi's here, Yamato's on the bench. Like then it's like,
Holiday.
okay, we have this much. Yeah, they also were doing a geography six there, then Holiday in Cape Town. Actually, I was in the mall in Sandton and I saw I think some of the coaching staff were in the Sandton City Mall. So they at least are getting their shopping right. So with that all being said, I still think for Morné van der Berg, it's not necessarily about him scoring 53 tries. It doesn't need to be on his scoreless right now, but just manage the game, manage the pace of the game. You bring it up when you want to, you turn it down when you want to. Like that's the main thing I think I want to see from Van der Berg. Like it kind of feels like sometimes he's being a bit hurried because it's test match rugby, it's obviously another level. But if he's able to be like, okay, we're putting our foot on the pedal. We're getting quick ball. We're gonna try to push that. Or if he's able to be like, okay, guys, it's not going anywhere. Let me put this up. Let me be accurate with my box kick. Or what does Andre want me to do? Let's do that. Or there's an opportunity to the blind side with Aaron or whatever. Like if he's able to sort of control the game, that's going to be much more valuable than him getting three tries, beating 10 defenders, and getting 100 meters. Like not that I think it's going to necessarily be that bad, but we need to see how Morné can control the pace of the game. And it's interesting because I don't necessarily think that's his role as much in the Lions, especially when Namba's still there. It was almost like they were doing that together because they're both nines. And he's kind of grown in that role now because the Lions haven't really had much experience at 10 for this season. So seeing a bit more of that at the international level will be a big thing, I think, for him.
I think for me, it's two quick ones. One, I want Volcano to absolutely destroy. I think I want him to cause, I want him to, like, I think he's got a chance to cause mayhem in the prop ranks in terms of Koch and Mahab when he comes back and going, saying, this is, I'm the number three now, you two figure out who sits on the bench. And two, Tyler, you mentioned Morné van der Berg. I'm very interested to see Pollard now with sort of an inexperienced now. I think obviously the bigger role will fall to Pollard in terms of running the game and obviously like when to kick, when to play. I think we'll see a little bit on six. I think we'll see more Leicester Tigers under Pollard than what we've seen in the box in the last couple of years. So I'm keen to see how he goes in that role. Because obviously he's had like Kuba Shinoff who's been in the system and he's a Faf de Klerk who when Faf has been playing, Kuba's sort of walked in and he's been in that mold before. And he's got the experience. I'm keen to see how Andre goes, where I do feel like he'll have a lot more of the reins. I feel like a lot more player will come off him. So I mean we saw a little bit of it against Ireland last year. And we know that we know that he's got it in him. So I'm very keen to see that. But I'm very keen. Also, for those who get into Loftus, please get the earliest Premier Women's are playing as well. So it's going to be a fantastic day of rugby. They play as well next weekend. Double curtain raisers as obviously they prepare for the Women's Rugby World Cup later in the year in England.
And we're playing Canada, which is a massive game.
It's a massive game. I mean, Canada, they're the top five and top three in the world.
Yes, they are good.
Yeah.
But I think, listen, the one thing I will say for sure is I think our prep heading into this World Cup it has looked like it's been infinitely better than previously, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that.
That's great. I mean, so it's to Brain and Bafana Lego in that mix. So it is exciting. And so we get two looks at them this weekend and obviously again, and quality opposition as well. So that's going to be fantastic. But we're going to go on a trip around the world. We'll start in New Zealand. Razor Scott Robertson named his side this morning. And I tweeted saying probably the most balanced side is named in a long time. Obviously, I mean, big loss of Tamonte Williams, but to Crew Taylor, Newell get back together. You got Scott Barrett as captain, Fabian Holland on debut, Tupavai, of course, it goes in the blind side. Artis Sevilla, which feels like for a long time, goes back to open side flank. I think it feels like since he hasn't played this since Steve Hansen was coaching. Christian Leo Willie comes in from being out of the squad completely and straight into a start. Cam Roygaard, Borden Barrett, Sevu Reece at 11, Jody Barrett, Billy Proctor, Rieko, and Will Jordan. And then on the bench, you've got Oli Norris make on debut, so as Duplessis Karifi. Shocky. Your thoughts on that
Can we
side?
talk about 13? Surely we can talk about 13. Can we
That's
talk about
exactly where
finally?
I thought you were going to start.
Wow. Firstly, I'm so excited for Billy Proctor. Like, I am so excited because I love him. He is such a linking 13. Like he's like a great 13 where especially the All Blacks have often just had deadly wingers. So to have a 13 that's gonna set up and play them is like it makes sense. The other is it's no brainer. Rieko Ioane, even for the 35 years they've been putting him at 13, he's always been a better winger than he has been at 13. Like that's the one thing I think that's quite evident. So this is going to be great, and I'm looking forward to see how he does in this move as well. Because I don't know the last time he played wing. I don't think he's played wing
He came off
in
the
years.
bench last year. I remember against the Box in Joburg, he came off the bench and he had to cover at wing.
Oh, I forgot about that. But anyway, my thing is I wanted to talk about 13, which is no surprise. The thing that I am surprised about, and I know Cooks, we chatted about it on the group, but like I can't believe that Leo Willie's come in and that has forced Ardie Savea to the side of the scrum when the whole time it was staring Razor in the face because Wallace Setiti was there and he never put him at 8. So I'm just glad. I think Savea's a better flanker than he is an 8th man. I think he's incredible no matter where he plays. I just think he offers more. So yes, the side does look balanced. Tupo Vai at flank is going to be quite exciting. Fabian Holland, what a story. Just Google it, go find out. Like, yeah, it's amazing. The All Blacks poaching more overseas born players. Just joking. Yeah, so exciting times. I think they're going to steamroll the French. I look at the French side, it's a bit touch and go.
Tala, I want to be controversial here. You know what I mean? They say we're going to make hot takes. Do you think this is last chance to do for Rieko Ioane? Because I think the Doug Howler curse is here. It's on his shoulder. It is booming on Rieko Ioane. It's about to get his claws into him. I don't think he has the pace for 11 anymore. That's my hot take. Rieko, I don't think I think experience is keeping him in there. It does help his case that Caleb Clark decided to score a single try during Super Rugby, who I thought was the incumbent.
Which is virtually impossible at wing in Super
Yeah.
Rugby.
So Tala, do you think now against this is last chance saloon for Rieko, and do you think Dougie Howlett is working his magic there?
No, man. Rieko might not score at wing, but this is not his last. I think the main reason it's not his last chance is this might be the first Super Rugby campaign we've gone through without some New Zealand wing success sensation. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but no one really popped out and said, "Hi, I'm the new 20-year-old 16 try scorer, run the 106 seconds flat, can bounce, a whole bus in front of me if I need to." Like, no one really came out from I think we were just talking about the same names. Like
Only at
Narawa
12.
was unlikely to make it. And
Only at 12, not at wing. You're
yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah. So Narawa was probably someone that could have played here. It's also interesting that Razor has switched the wings because Reece usually plays at 14, right? He's playing at 11.
Yeah.
Rieko usually played at 11. He's playing at 14. So that's a very interesting mix. I don't know
No,
what the implications are
that
because
was an error.
okay.
NZRU sent out a message afterwards. They got it the wrong way around. Rico's at 11. But
Okay.
Sean
Fair enough.
Stevenson at
I thought he
15
was
and
doing
Will
something
Jordan at
different.
11 would be nice. That's the only outside back that is really lit it is Sean Stevenson.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that like I think it's only Stevenson Narawa that might be able to put some pressure out of the wings that are not in the squad. So that's what I think for Rico. He's still fine until I mean Stevenson especially, I don't think he really covered himself in glory in the Super Rugby final. So it's like, okay, you're not really pushing the door, even though I'm a big fan and I would have probably given him a chance. Narawa, I think he's been fine, but yeah, again, for whatever reasons, not Razor's cup of tea. So I think Rico's fine. It's an interesting squad though for the All Blacks. I think there's a lot of opportunities here. Yes, France also don't necessarily have the biggest experienced team, but we sort of come back to the issue that the All Blacks had last year of having a pretty inexperienced bench because in the second half, at some point in the game, you're going to have Ollie Norris, Basilo Tosi, Samipeni Finau, Duplessis Karifi, Cortes Ramatuma, and Quintupai. And all of them, they have less than 10 test caps. So that's 40% of your team. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how they finish because we've seen the struggles that the All Blacks have had in the last 20 minutes last year. So, France, if we shift gears to them, France don't have like a strong team here. Obviously, the top 14 is still going on. I heard preseason's literally starting in August, and I was just like, and preseason for the Pro D2 has already started. I'm like, this season really doesn't end. So they've also chosen, I think it's 6 debutants or something like that. It's not a strong team by any means, but it's going to be a competitive team. I think New Zealand, if they sleep on this, they'll catch one. And I mean, I've been saying since last year, I think France is going to win the first test. So the only way for that to happen is that it's close to 60 minutes, and then things get a bit tight. D-Mac has to come on. He gets a bit panicky. You have Segans and Astoy just running the show. You have Lekarek just running around. You have Fiku with his experience. You have experienced forwards like Taufik Fanua coming on. Like then it gets shaky. So for New Zealand's sake, I think they need a pretty strong start. They usually have a horrible first half in their first test of the year, but they need a pretty strong start and to put some level of this distance because if this is close in 60 minutes. I think that's when France could actually get a big upset here.
I think
I have two questions the two things that I'm going to be focusing on for the All Blacks. One is Razor going to be using his bench more? Because a couple of years ago, he was just like not putting players on. That changed a little bit last year. So there's going to be those questions. And those questions come when teams pressure them. So it all circles back to what you've said that like, are they going to start strong enough? And the other thing, and I may be wrong, but is Cortez Ratima good enough and strong enough to be in this space? Like, have I just watched the wrong parts of him? He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that is the right guy to have there. But then to be fair, is Cam Roygar is probably going to play 70 minutes anyway.
so. I think to answer your first one, Shaki, that's my biggest question for the All Blacks this season is how much faith is Razor going to put in his bench because you can't ask guys to go 75 minutes each week like it did last year. I think the big one for him now, and what helps Razor is that Taki Howard's back, which is massive. And I think Simon Sodi makes a massive difference because last year we saw in the big game Amor was coming on later and later and later in tests. And then I think there wasn't one test, you got like 20 minutes and then he couldn't hit a line, agreeing the Bondo. So he did line out time. So I think that does help. I think obviously my big one for him if he gets tight is the loose forwards. Because I mean obviously, obviously if Holland doesn't go well, you can move Vi back to 5 and then I can see him putting on a Duplessis Karifi in at 7 and then Ari go back to 8 more before I can see him going or even moving into Christian Uri to say Saipani Finau is a worry for me. And as hard as nails, It's just that he just he's a walking penalty. And I've always stressed about him. And I think with Razor now, it's a big test on his name, probably the most balanced side he's probably named. And Thala, you mentioned you're wondering like when is the changes are gonna start. I feel like he's starting then. I think Razor's starting to implement what he wants to do and put his stamp on his side with Proctor there and Jordan at 15. And I mean, listen, in the ideal world, I still think Jordy Barrett's best position is 15. I would have him at 15. I'd have Jordan at 14. I'd have Quinto PN, but practice my centers, but that's a story for another day. Sharky, I understand what you mean with Quarters right, but the problem is the third choice is Noah Hotham. So it's another youngster as well. So I think at 9 is a place where they sort of Cortez, and it's about getting each guy some game time. I think there's a big gap between Roygaard and the next guy. Roygaard's fantastic. And it does seem like you'll see Roygaard playing 70-odd minutes and then a Cortez Rattima comes in. I do like Cortez, but you are absolutely there are parts of his game where like against like especially when he gets tighter. He's a great running scrum half. He's fantastic when you need him to run around stuff, but like you saw in the Super Rugby final when he gets a bit tighter and each sort of playoffs is not being good for the Chiefs in terms of like in big games, in big knockout games when the game needs to be controlled. When it's him and D-Mac, could be him and D-Mac at 9-10 to win the game. Tell, I think your bet's coming. Your bet could come true. Oh, Bottom Barry will be playing 80 minutes. But I think those are the two. I think Razor and that one. I think that's probably the two questions the All Blacks have. The first one, especially the benches of the All Blacks have for themselves. Thala?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we list the players that haven't really either proved themselves yet at test level, or had a big impact at test level. So it's the 6 bench players that I talked about. Some debuting, some don't really have a lot of test caps. It's Fabian Holland, who's also making his debut. It's Christian Loeli, also making his debut. I think Tupokai last season, he sort of certified himself as a test match player, but at number 6, so are we sure about that? We'll have to see. I think he has the ability, but you wonder like if he can do it. It's Billy Proctor. He hasn't had a chance really to play at test level. It's Rieko Ioane at wing. We're sort of asking questions again about him. So it's quite a few players now that I think still need to prove themselves at test level or reprove themselves or are coming back from injury or changing positions or whatever the case is. So yeah, it's balanced. I get what you were saying, Kooks. It's balanced in the sense that like it makes the most sense, but it's also like, and this is also because mostly of injuries, but also because you haven't selected, the likes of Blackadder and Papali to help out, the likes of Havili and those sort of players to maybe make that bench look a lot more experienced, stronger. So this is, I guess you can take these risks because France have chosen, their espoirs to come to this tour, but yeah, it can get pear-shaped really quickly as well. So yeah, I think for the likes of, like I'm probably speaking out of both sides of my mouth. I still think there's a very strong France team, even if it is shorn of a lot of the quality and talent that the first team has. But it's also one of those where if Holland can't make his impact against Tyler Dugui, like how are you going to do that against Eben Etzebeth? If Billy Proctor isn't able to run rings around Emil Gaiton, who's like 20 or 21 still, he's been 21 for a few years now. Like, how are you going to do that against Jesse Creel? So you kind of need to check these boxes. And yes, we don't, especially for younger players, we're not going to throw them out after one test, but geez, you need to be able to sort of put a marker on the ground because there are quite a few experienced players that, for whatever reason, Razor hasn't picked or, is cutting maybe their career short, whatever the case is. So they need to make that impact, and that's going to be interesting for them. Just on the French team, I don't know if you guys watched the France A versus England game, but Giard at 8 is very interesting. And by all accounts, apparently had a really good game at 8. So I think he was probably one of the finds of the Six Nations. He's been playing well for Lyon. He was great at lock. He seems to be that Miafu Tafe Fanua, big meaty lock mold. Sidebar, JJ Van der Mesh leaving for England. That's very interesting. He's now apparently signed for Northampton. I thought he was
Yeah.
fattening himself up in order to join the French national team, and he was, I think, 1 year away from qualification. So
And
that's very
70 odd
interesting.
caps
But
for Stade Francais Paris as well.
yeah, so I that's an interesting call there. But Guyana at 8, yeah, I don't know if it's going to work at a away test in New Zealand level. He was pretty good from what I saw in the England A game. But yeah, I mean, this French team is the pack that's going to be the worry. They have to pull something out. They've been helped by the likes of Setithi and Damian Willemse not being there, but they'll have to pull something out in order to at least keep it competitive, to not be like massively pushed around the scrum and ruck, hold on to something and then throw to their magic men out wide, because they still have, Fiku and Atisogbe and those sort of players that can, get them some of those bullshit scores.
So very interesting. If you look at their bench, they've got Romain Tafa-Fanua, Cameron Walker, and Jacobus van Toorne. So Saf is abroad. Jacobus van Toorne plays for Perpignan. He used to play for Clermont last season. He's more like more a blindside flank. Like he's a blindside flank stroke four, more blindside. But if you look at that bench, Tafa-Fanua, Waki, and Fantone, those are big guys. Like the French have decided we're going heavy, we're going to go big, and we're just going to just try and keep just flooding you with massive humans and see how you deal with it.
And you also look like, I mean, for the French, Salah, you mentioned like the All Blacks bench, like the minimal experience that France has, they got quite a bit on their bench considering the squad they have. I mean, even Hasto has been there, but I just think for France is they know that they're gonna get off if they can steal this first test. It makes it very awkward for the All Blacks for the next two, especially with the five players that come back. They become available next week. But for the All Blacks, it's a massive test for those guys up front. I think also, obviously up front because it is a big French side to dominate it. Because I think if I don't think the All Blacks. It sounds strange to say is whenever the All Blacks the last few years at home have tried to get into a shootout, they've lost. Like when they've lost to Argentina, like last year when they tried to go bar for bar, Argentina, Argentina's like, we'll run this ball the whole day and see what happens. And the weird thing for the All Black, it's so strange saying that like they don't want to get into a shootout with this French side, with the backline that they have. Where for France, they're saying, please, we just run at us, let's throw this ball around with our backline, and we'll go from there. And I think for the All Blacks, is the tighter they are, the better they will be because you look at their best performances has just been like I think the frustrating thing. Another interviewed Razor a few weeks ago is that they just were just terrible in close games last season. It hurt them because you look against the Box twice against France. Whenever they got a close game, I mean, they always beat Australia. But I mean, like whenever they got into close games, they're sort of doing the other side of those results. And I think for them now is I worry for them if they don't dominate up front, if they don't get that platform, because I think that's how they're going to be the French by being slightly more direct. Because I think the French, as big as a pack are, they want to get out to their backs. Because I can't see Galtier changing the way he plays as much. Because I can still see him kicking as deep as possible, saying, "Run at us. Let's see how you guys go. Force them into a running game." And I think when the All Blacks find themselves running the ball too much, that's when they get in trouble and they just feel themselves going, we need to play the extra pass, play the extra. So I'm keen to see how they go. But if you go
Am I
across,
the only one who sees the All Blacks winning by like
I got
30
the
plus points?
I got the All Blacks winning by 15. I think the All Blacks pull away at the end. And you tell her you got you got a French win still.
Allez les bleus.
You're only saying that because they're your neighbors now.
Yeah, because he wants his bag back.
To be fair, I mean, that as well. To be fair, when I thought the France would come here, I thought they'd come with a much stronger team than this. I thought maybe some of those like first teamers would make their way into the team, but obviously that hasn't happened. Yeah, it's very much against all odds if they do it. But, I'm trusting from big matches from, Slimani, from Aradu, from Legarek, from Sagans, and those sort of players to just keep it tight, and then you actually might have the advantage on the bench, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think a very close win for France would, and I mean, yeah, New Zealand were fantastic last in the end of year tour, but like said, they did drop some close matches during the course of the year. So yeah, we're not too far off us having a bit of like questions and doubts about this All Black team. They're also not above reproach. So yeah, I think Shaun, it should be 20, 30 points. I think maybe the second and third test are like that. The first test, traditionally for New Zealand's always really, 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 really close. The only thing that might save them is that they're playing in Dunedin. I mean, that's not as big of a record that they do have at Eden Park, but yeah, I mean, Dunedin gives and takes away because you have a dry track, but you also have the sort of the Dunedin history and the record there.
Yeah.
It's not Carisbrook, at least.
Listen, to go across the Tasman, the Lions have named their side to play the Tars. Quite a few changes. Piers Kumar, Cohen Dickey, Finley Beelum, Ty Byrne captaining the side, James Ryan. You got Pollock at open side, Pollock blind side, Bennell at 8, and then Van der Fleer at 7 open side. You got Mitchell at 9, Finn Smith, Hugh Paludu gets their first run on tour starting. Then you got King on 11, Keenan at 15, Hansen at 14, and on the bench, interesting, they've gone 6-2 on the bench with Sheehan, Genge, Furlong, McCarthy, Cummins, Morgan, Ben White's first game on tour, and Marcus Smith on the bench. Sharky, if you're the Lions, it's probably the big thing this weekend is let's sort the scrum, line out, and our kickoffs.
Yeah, and by naming a 6-2 bench, and they've got massive heavies and ball players in that pack to make up for a light 9 and 10 that they're going to bring on. It is exactly about that. The other massive conversation is I still don't think Andy Farrell has nailed down his test midfield. I think his default setting would be to go Aki Ringrose. I think if he's unsure, he's going to not split them up. I think he'll keep them together. So he'll keep the Scots together, he'll keep the Irish together, because no one's really gelled with the enemy, if you excuse my phrase. But yeah, so that's how that's going to go. It's very interesting. Kinghorn, I really feel Andy Farrell desperately needs Kinghorn to hit the ground running, like desperately. And same with Keenan. I think he needs both of them kind of fit. The best part of having both of them on the field at the same time is you're not wasting another game to make that decision. This game will decide who starts at 15 in the opening test, and he'll manage it that way. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Van der Fleer to blindside flank is fun because he's such a hard worker. He makes a hell of a lot of tackles, hits a hell of a lot of rucks. He's a line out option, frees up Pollock to really do what he's good at, which is being an open side flanker. I know he plays 8, and then Ben Earl at 8. So as I like to have a big blindside flanker. I think the Lions need it because they need line out options there. I think Van der Fleer is that perfect in between blindside and open side flanker, but is an open side flanker, and I think it's the best balance that they'll have. And then Cowan Dickey, yeah, I think he's got to hit his targets. That's the biggest thing, and he's got to make sure that he doesn't tackle like a chop. Skuman and Beelman, I think Skuman, very interesting. Listen, I don't think there's one prop in red this tour that has really said, "Listen, I'm the guy to scrum." And the what?
I think just Genge. Genge is probably the only one.
True. I'm sorry. You're 100% right. I think Ellis Genge has been
secured his sort of place.
Yeah. So Skuman, you'd expect more from him, and I think the props are still fighting out. And Ellis Genge is brilliant, and Dan Shen and Tag Furlong. I think Furlong's got his first game out of the way. That replacement bench is gonna steamroll the Waratahs.
So the hard thing for the Waratahs, I mean, obviously, and all for the provincial sides, obviously the depth's going to hit them all the time. So I'm not too concerned.
Yeah,
at how they go. I mean, the Reds were good for about 35 minutes, and then obviously second half comes, and the Lions were sort of funny enough when they're more direct or even better. The interesting thing in the Lions, I don't think the backline doesn't seem to be as much of an issue because they've looked, especially against the Reds and on the Force, they've looked slicked whenever they've sort of gone out wide. I mean, their first phase players have looked good, and then I think for Aki, I think the first half he tried to maybe play a little bit too much, and then obviously second half got tighter, and then
definitely game plan. That was
Yeah.
definitely like a
Yeah.
lot of people are having a go at Aki about that, and that the way Aki played in the first half screams
Yeah.
coach. It screams the coach going, "This is what we need from you. I want to have a look at it."
Yeah.
And then when he tightened up in the second half, they scored a try off his first massive
Yeah.
carry. So
Yeah,
like
100%.
that doesn't phase me. But you're right, yeah.
So I definitely think, obviously, I think that the attack is sort of starting to shape up nicely in terms of the way they play. You can see there's a lot of Gibson Park off 9 doing a lot of the heavy work, and then once there's momentum, Finn, boom, snaps, and then Finn Russell, boom, and then they play. I think obviously that's the nice tempo. I thought Mitchell was good as well when he came on. I came on and brought a massive spark. So I mean, you probably will be those two. I mean, I'm very keen how Ben White goes on the weekend as well. I think
Yeah.
Ben White's big. Do you
And they
think?
need him to do well.
Yeah. Do you think as Thala gets back, Thala, I'm giving you the big question. It's 6-2 split for the Lions. We saw Ben Earl finish the game at 12. Do you think they'll do that again? Maybe in the second half. Chuck
Well, you don't need to
Ben
have
in
Owen Farrell
center.
coming now.
Well,
But
I mean for the weekend. I mean, they've gone 6-2 and Ben Earl's at 8. Maybe I'm just shocked. Maybe he has a little dab on at center
I
again.
yeah, I think this team is kind of the biggest sort of indicators who's the test team, which is
Yeah.
pretty much a lot of Wednesday guys. So I think backline wise, I think centers are not decided. I think I heard you guys talk about that. I think all four are pretty much still in it. I think Hugh Jones is though like the one in the elimination sort of zone. Like
Because
if he
Ringrose has been
doesn't
good, eh?
engage,
Ringrose has been good.
Ringrose has
Ringrose looked
been
fantastic.
good.
Yeah,
Ringrose is a defender to what Hugh Jones is an attacker, but Hugh
yeah,
Jones is not. So Gary Ringrose is a momentum stopping defender. Hugh Jones is just a good tackle defender. The thing is, and I know I mentioned it earlier on in the week, is people don't realize is the value Hugh Jones adds to Sione Tuipulotu. So
yeah.
Tuipulotu needs Hugh Jones to play Sione Tuipulotu's game, and Gary Ringrose hasn't connected like that yet. That's what's really important.
Yeah, I still think we'll see. But like my point was, I think Hughes is probably the one that's like on sort of like edge. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a great game now. He's the one that sort of drops out.
yeah. Makes the
But
decision easy.
yeah, I think the rest of the back line is probably done. I think it's Gibson Park 9, Finn 10, 15 is obviously being decided. 14 is low, I think, is 11. I think Duan hasn't really done enough in order to secure his
I
place.
think 14 is a big. I think it's a five, but I think
14 is interesting.
But I think because I think it's again. I think 14 you're right because 14 is an interesting one. Do you want? It depends how aerial the Lions are going to play. Do you want
Yeah.
obviously a big aerial game? I mean, Freeman, fantastic chaser, great in the air, out and out traditional 14, and he's been playing well. But then Hansen, I mean, what he brings for you in attack, especially. But my thing is also dependent on who you play at 15, because
Yes. So I was about to say,
if
like,
you have
it's
King on,
combinations as well.
yeah, because if you have King on at 15, for example, King on is a bit more of a playmaker than what Keenan is, for example. So you can afford to have a Freeman at 15. But if you have Keenan at 15, I'm going, you've got to get Hansen at 15. Because
Yeah.
then basically but then again, you have Finn at 10. So, I mean, 14 is very interesting.
I,
Yeah. So I
I,
was gonna sorry, Shaun, just to finish, I was just gonna say that I think then basically what this weekend is about is there's a lot of players that I think are lost in their pecking order. This is your chance now. This is like now or never. Like pull something out of the hat. Your Furlongs, your Schoemans, your Cowan Dickies, your Cummings and Ryans. Like I think Earl's probably on that list. It's if you can't put something on the ground to say I can still do a job, I can still be a part of the testing, then I think you're gonna have to get ready for the Pacific Islands and
You
the
know,
Oz NZ games.
do you know, sorry, Shaki, do you know what's fucking hurt Ben Earl is Jack Morgan on what he did on Wednesday? Because he
I
like
think Pollock more, but yeah,
yeah, well, Conan on Wednesday just played himself into the number 8 jersey on a Wednesday, and he just showed us. And then obviously Pollock, obviously he's got that X factor where almost him and Ben Earl, and then you think to yourself like if you have because it looks like obviously Van der Fleer, you're gonna have, and then you're gonna have And then you'd have probably what Tom Curry at 6. You could even have Jack Morgan at 6. See, that's the thing. Even like someone like Tom Curry is going, listen, but that 6 jersey is not. It's not the pure end all because Jack Morgan made things awkward on Wednesday. He made things very awkward. Going, listen, yeah, I'm happy to move. I can play blind side if it needs be, but he's going like I need to be in this mix, and he's going. I mean, Pollock obviously got the X factor. That's why, like something like Ben Earl for me, like he needs a massive game in terms of because I think he and Pollock are competing for that. I wouldn't say because you have Morgan as well, but competing for that X factor role is because I think Morgan is in that mix. He's at the starting or he's going to be on the bench. But to take him out, you got to do something that Morgan doesn't bring. Because I mean Morgan, I mean, just the way he was, I mean, his nickname, the Lone Welshman, sounds like a superhero at the moment after his performance. I think because there's certain guys like him where they have a performance so good, like him, like Morgan Hansen in that first game, and you're going, oh, geez, okay. We forgot about this hook as well. We forgot how good he was before he got injured. I think that's what some of these guys that we thought were not I won't say incumbents were probables. They've gone, okay, shit, we need this game against the Waratahs to show we need a big one. And I think Curry's in that mix as well, especially after the statement that was thrown down by Jack Morgan. I think Van der Fleer will be in. I think he looked sharp obviously in the game that he got. So it's gonna be interesting.
Loose trio for the first test: Van der Fleer, Byrne, Conan. Then Earl and Pollock are fighting for one of those 6-2 bench for one of those spots. Jack Morgan may get in because he can also dovetail a little bit. But more importantly, we need to talk about 14
Do you think the
again.
Lions will, sorry, Shoki. Do you think the Lions will go Burn first? I think Burn is. I think them changing their blind side is a plan B if it doesn't go well like on test one.
They're struggling at scrum time, so they do need to bulk up a little bit. So I think having Byrne on the side of the scrum, having Itoje, and remember McCarthy had a flippin' barnstormer the other day. Like
Yeah.
I really think it's Itoje, McCarthy, Van der Fleer, Byrne, and Conan is your back five. You know, so I think I'm actually willing to say I am willing to commit fully to that in how I feel. I don't think that'll change no matter what happens this weekend. I think what happens with Pollock and Earl this weekend decides who is actually going to ride the pine. And I do think they're going to go 6-2, which will allow Jack Morgan possibly to get a look in. Because if the Lions can really pump them up front and wear the Wallabies down, and I'm talking about obviously the test match, is then to have like a Curry and Earl, a Pollock or a Morgan come off the bench and just run everyone off their feet and get to the ball first to secure it. It's, you know what I mean? It protects your lead. Yeah.
And then
But
to 14?
sorry?
And then to 14?
Oh, okay. Hansen had a great second half. And Freeman, we always have really enjoyed the way that he is in the air. He's one of the best. Thala, I'm going to quote you here, but he's one of the best attacking, kicking or kick attack wings out there. He's incredible. Defensively, he's good. He's got the defensive mindset to cover 13. He also can play 15. So he really offers a lot. The difference between the Freeman offers more than what Hansen offers is both Lowe and Hansen, when they join the line of the blind wing, they are joining the line outside of 13. Freeman is coming in anywhere from 10 to 15. And the thing is, he's so punchy. He really is a tackle breaker where like a little bit in the mold of Lowe, but Hansen isn't. Hansen is a man beater and he does create stuff, but probably, and I'm going to say Freeman starts and because they want him more direct. Like if you can punch someone, draw in two defenders, and then just keep going around that corner and then opening up for the guys to fold and score in the corner, I think that's where Freeman gets it, and he starts at 14 for me.
No, I think I also got Freeman, I think, starting at 14, but I just think the way on attack, I mean, and Farrell likes to attack, and what you get from Hansen, I mean, obviously he does throw a spanner in the works, but it's going to be interesting. I think the one thing the Lions lack in terms of the wings is out and out pace, like pure pace play. I think that's something
Freeman and Hansen have got that though.
I mean, I'm talking about like rapid speedsters. I'm like Anthony Watson. Like that's something that will probably take some over
Make
the
me cry.
Yeah, I mean, but who in Britain and Ireland right now is pace?
The day Ireland gets fast wingers is the day rugby will maybe there's a day rugby will change forever. I mean, but it is going to be interesting
Yeah, I
because
mean, yeah, this is the country because I mean, I've been seeing this a lot because I think a lot of Irish rugby Twitter is now on Blue Sky, and I'm seeing that complaint a lot about like Irish Leinster teams and other Lions as well. I'm like, you had Shane Horgan for 10 years. Like, he was your standard winger. Shane Horgan's a lot of things. I don't think he was fast.
no, pace is not pace is
Yeah, so I'm just like, when I mean,
I
look,
think
they have a big sidebar. They have a great athletics team, but it's all long distance runners. I think they like have got a good 400 and 800-meter runners. I think both are men's and women's. But this is not the quick acceleration speed that they're talking about here. So I don't know where this idea is they're going to get pace from. But yeah, I still think though, just Shaun, yeah, I think it's about what Cook said earlier. Whoever's the 15 will kind of dictate who the 14 is. So Keenan and Hansen probably come as a combination, and then Kinghorn and Freeman come as a combination. I don't think you can quite mix the two together, but yeah, I think that might be the deciding factor is who shoots it out this weekend in the back three between those two.
No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can have Keenan, you'll have Freeman. They will kick more in the test match. That's the one thing that we haven't seen a lot of the Lions is they've been very expansive, which suits Freeman. I really do think Freeman covers a lot of bases in different styles. But they will kick more in the opening test match. And that's going to come off Gibson Park and it's going to come off Finn Russell. And that's going to suit Freeman down to ground. Guy's probably going to get a brace and then he'll start at 14 for the rest of the tour. You heard it here first.
I think the big one is I do agree with you though, kick more. I just think the biggest thing also I mean what the Lions need to sort of adjust to is obviously the Southern Hemisphere refs and the way they call scrums because Porter's been pinned twice for angle eventually. Fully, I mean,
Yeah,
like
eventually, yeah.
pinned as well. Some of the scrum penalties has been obviously on angle where it looks like the refs on those tour are big on it. And my thing, if you're the Lions and if you're the Wallabies, is I just think they think of themselves, we can just get parity at scrum time. And Angus Bell can go to work on the tie test because Furlong and Wolf should have not wrapped themselves up in glory to start the tour off. So, that's where an area that they can potentially target. And then obviously line out time is going to be massive because the Lions line out has not sort of functioned as well as it be. That's why maybe potentially I mean, listen, the Wallabies aren't these giants to have, but they can be disruptive. So that's why you're probably thinking to sneak a burn in at 6. But I just think obviously my issue with the Lions in terms of line is I thought Killer didn't start off as well. Is that Sheehan's probably going to play 65 minutes. I think there's a big gap from Sheehan and Keller and then Cohen Dickey. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think then to throw in another name that we haven't, I think, talked about yet. If both of those things are issues, I didn't watch yesterday's game. I was also in transit. Is if lineout and scrum and kickoff receipts are an issue, Ollie Chesham has to play a lot of minutes in your test
Yeah.
match team. He's probably an option at 6. He's probably an option at lock. I mean, you already have your captain at lock, which makes things complicated as well. So I would say, because I think Chesham is pretty much the lineout doctor for both England, for Leicester Tigers, seems to be the best lineout operator in Britain and Ireland right now. Byrne has been, it's hard to put it on one person, but Byrne has been like one of the leaders of the worst lineout in the RC, and that's Munster. Ireland's lineout has been shaky for at least 2 years now. So it kind of leaves you, and Scott Cummins was just not great in last week's game against the Force. So you're kind of being limited with options, especially if Joe McCarthy is maybe a test starter. He's not really known for his line-out jumping. He doesn't jump as much as other locks. So then, yeah, Chesham probably then puts himself into that conversation. Yeah, so that just further complicates things more. Maybe Byrne becomes more of an impact player coming on with McCarthy in the 6-2. I don't know. But yeah, the one nice thing about the Lions, I mean, I don't know, like, I think now I'm getting to that point with the Lions where I'm just like, I don't maybe see the purpose of it sort of long term for World Rugby because it causes more harm than good in terms of like development for other teams and only benefits, Britain Island and the teams that they tour in. The one nice thing is we can have all these conversations about a fantasy team because you're like, can I choose Chisholm or Byrne? Oh my gosh, what a tough decision. Like these are the sort of great dream team like conversations we can actually have.
Yeah, it is. But let's as we wrap up, we just look at. I mean, it's a big weekend for international rugby. I mean, we got we got Japan taking on Wales. We got which is both sides on a losing streak. It was a loser leaves town. Japan taking on Wales, All Blacks France. We got Georgia Ireland. Argentina, Craig Casey captaining Ireland for the first time. Argentina England, which is a great way. An Argentina England game at like 20 to 10 is a great sneaky ball game after the when you just like have a look. Oh, it's like a bit of a game. That's the one where you like you walk past the bathroom 3 times, look at the score, then you somehow find yourself like for 20 minutes like watching this game. Or when you get home from dinner, you're like, what's on the television? Oh, geez, Argentina England are playing. And then and then on Sunday, we got Australia taking on Fiji. So there is a lot of international rugby on, and we will be back on Monday to break it all down. Yes, Thala?
Very quickly. No, just a few quick notes for everyone for what you can watch out for all of these games. Maori All Blacks versus Scotland starts us off at 5:30. For me, it's just basically the two Sullivans who probably and Rivers Rihanna are
Yes.
probably the three quality players in that Maori All Blacks team. Sidebar, probably the weakest Maori All Blacks team I've seen in a while. It just doesn't
Wow.
seem as
Yes.
strong as it has been in years before. It
They
is
struggled
Cullen
big
Grace is
time
the advocate, to be
against the Japan XV in the first half as well, eh?
yeah.
Mm.
So this should be a pretty comfortable win for Scotland. And Scotland, I think the one thing I'm watching out for is Alex Masibaka. He plays for Montauban, if I'm not mistaken. He's in the top 14. He was chosen from the Pro D2 into the Scotland Six Nations squad a few months ago, but I don't think he got a cap. So he's going to be making his Scotland debut, but not his Test debut on Saturday. No, he wasn't playing for Montauban. He was playing for SA, for Angulem. I don't know how to say that. But yeah, he's an Australian or born in Australia, has come to Scotland. So yeah, he will probably cause controversy in the next Lions tour. Japan, Wales is El Capico. But the Wales team looks way too strong for Japan.
Oh, crappy guy.
Like, yeah, even for Wales, I think if they don't beat Japan, I think we need to liquidate the WRU. Like we just need to go, okay, cool, it's
Well,
over.
they might beat
Scarlets and the women's team are the only teams that can stay over.
they might beat you to it the way they're going.
Listen, Scarlets have just lost five for Fita. He's going to the top 14.
Oh
So Scarlets
no.
are going to be not available for anything in the URC after that.
Oh,
Yeah, geez. That group they're in for the Champions Cup is so fun because all of those teams are going to be scoring like 40, 50 points against each other. Georgia Ireland, we don't have the Georgia team yet, but the Irish team is quite nice. There's this guy called Sam Prendergast that's starting at 10. I think there's some Irish people that have some thoughts about him starting over Jack Crowley again.
Talented
But
youngster.
talented youngster, I think he's well. I think there's 4 debutants for Ireland. So the likes of Michael Milne, Ben Murphy, Tshituka's playing at lock. So that's going to be I think that's a fun team. I think that's going to be a quite nice, yeah, after the box game, that's a nice game to look to because I think Georgia's going to probably pick a pretty strong team themselves.
I just want to say, Craig Casey, I really thought he'd get a look in to go on Lions tour because he has had an exceptional season, but exceptional end to his season with Munster. I think the only thing that would make missing the Lions tour okay is the fact that he gets to captain Ireland. So I'm so stoked for him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he's going to be. I think he's come on so well. I remember last year in the first test against the Box, he probably had his best game, I think, for Ireland, and then he got concussed. Like he was absolutely fantastic. Like it didn't show that he's 1.2 meters tall or whatever he is. He really was bossing the game for Ireland. Derek Murray, I think, is quite nice. He's a lock there for Connacht. And Gavin Coombs can start for Ireland. Wow. At Cox, we didn't think that was possible. Like
Yeah,
we thought we thought he wasn't eligible for Ireland now. Like he's actually now getting a start.
I'm so glad.
So that's going to be something to watch.
You're challenging Jean-Luc Dupree and about how many bags, who can carry the most bags on tour.
Yeah. I mean, the Australia-Fiji game, we'll see. Probably the team comes out on Friday. It's just that's all about, okay, who does Australia start and what can we learn from that game? But yeah, I mean, Fiji beat them in their last game in the World Cup, so Australia has to watch out there. I think it's about can Suaalii start? And yeah, like what does the Schmidt go for Nongo or Tom Robertson at reserve tight head with now Tupou playing on Saturday? And then I th there's been talk about maybe Schmidt going double, going Pooper again and going for McWright and Tizano as their flanks. So having two open siders. So let's see if that happens.
I wonder if it does. I mean, obviously, I know Valentini's out for this game, which is massive. Hopefully, he's good. He comes back soon. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's short term, I think.
I just don't think like I just definitely think for them they just need that extra line of options. If you like, I don't think I'll go Pooper just yet. Because I think the biggest thing,
Yeah,
as much as he wants to make, I mean, try. I think that test side needs a run together going into that Lions test more than his different combinations.
yeah. It's going to be interesting because, I mean, obviously, that's the one place you can target the Lions, is the line out. But Australia's might be going towards, whatever happens, the line out happens. It's just to play the rest of the game. So both teams are just doing a handshake agreement. Lineouts are free for all. Let's battle in other places. That'll be hilarious.
I'm in for that.
Yeah. And then there's also under 20s happening as well on Friday night. So that's, I mean, England's facing South Africa. So that's also a big game for the baby box, I would assume, their Cooks.
It's massive. I mean, they win that, you're definitely through. England obviously is our arch nemesis, and it feels like we haven't beaten them in a World Cup in forever. Actually, there's a Sapphire abroad in the English side. Cameron Riddle, Michael House boy, very good player. This has gone across there to the English now. So yeah, I think we need a massive win. Good start, but backing us to win tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, I see Dria Kupoku is also in the England team, and
Yeah,
he's fantastic. He's playing a lot of top 14 already. So, jeez.
That's
Okay. Yeah,
massive
I was just
because
thinking,
there was dodgy that he might not want to go back to England. That's huge. I
yeah.
completely missed that. That is massive for England and England rugby as a whole.
yeah.
Does that lock him up for he has to do the 3 year or 5 year eligibility now?
I don't think it locks him up, but
Not on a
it's
20.
definitely the intent, and you'd probably find that it'll come with maybe some form of an informal or formal agreement to try and get him back to the Premiership. But sorry, and I also think he has actually just signed a contract extension, so it could be quite.
Yes.
This
I think
could
he's with
be
Rusty.
a good soap opera. This.
Yeah, no, definitely is. Especially,
Mm.
oh man, that's wild. But guys, a lot of rugby. Can't wait to break it down on Monday. That's another episode of the Rugby Bits Pod. We'll be up soon, and we can't wait to see you guys on Monday after a very eventful day. We know we're in for a very eventful weekend. Cheers, everyone.
Bye bye.